Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Public Square, your weekly current affairs show coming to you on Meri online channel. Which one is which? Is it teacher no mistake or teacher pillar of the nation? Is it still the noble profession or the ignored profession? Your guess is as good as mine. Teachers Union BOSETU will be holding their Congress at the end of this month in Mahalape. Among other things, they will take stock of what the union has achieved over the last 38 or so years of its existence. The delegates will also reflect on the challenges that their membership continues to contend with. We have in the studio the Secretary General of BOSETU, Tobokani Rari, who is going to take us through the journey of the union over the last 4 decades or so. You are welcome to the Public Square, Rari. It's an honor to have you on our show.
Thank you so much, Rambu.
Charity begins at home, Rari. Let's talk about teachers' accommodation. It's, to say the least, appalling to see the conditions under which teachers live. The houses, for most of them, are dilapidated. The ceilings are falling off. In some cases, they don't even have running water in their houses. As you know, I come from Molepolole. I remember last year at Chele, a school which is very dear to me because I was a student there, then I became a teacher there afterwards. I came across a teacher pushing a wheelbarrow with 2, 3, 25-liter containers to go and fetch water from a JoJo tank about 100 meters away from his house. What are you doing about this?
I think you're quite right, Rembuya, that accommodation for teachers has become a real problem. Every time we put across issues of accommodation, there is this notion that is always been brought around by the employer that accommodation is not a right, but a privilege. But we have said it several times that, a privilege, if it becomes extended for so many years to individuals or workers in this case, and the employer provides it, then you cannot then turn around and argue that it is not a right, because it will be tantamount to discrimination if you don't provide that privilege to others. So accommodation, in our view, as BOSETU, has become a right. You are also right to say the state of pool houses that are given to teachers is to maybe, lack of a better word, appalling and in a very bad state. When the then Minister of Education, Mayor Pilinomi Vincent Muitoi, was still the minister, we first, probably I should state that there is shortage. Second, there is overpopulation of the occupants of houses. For example, you can find that in some instances there are 2 teachers with families that are sharing a house. Thirdly, cyclic maintenance of those houses is not done. Just to give you a figure, last year 2022, we had incidents of of those staff houses getting fire, burning, and the investigations, about 15 of them, the cases that were reported to us, 15 of them. And when we did our investigations through our Office of Occupational Health, we realized that it is because of some electric short circuits and others, which then tells you that these houses have been there and they are not being maintained. So, indeed, I'm trying to confirm. Then, what is it that we are doing? When Minister Philinomi Vincent was still the Minister of Education, we submitted a paper to government to the effect that because there is dire shortage, maybe teachers be posted to their home areas. That was one, so that they are able to reside in their own houses. That would also assist them in building for the future their own homes. Secondly, we also then say, if that is not possible, because obviously it would not be possible, we would not find the right spread of teachers to each village in terms of the subjects that they are teaching. Then we then said, if that is not possible, then the second option also would be that, or that augments that, would also be that teachers who are found in a certain location, they should be allowed to look for private residential houses outside the school and then be subsidized by government such that they end up paying the amount that is tantamount to the amount that is paid by those that are living in teachers' quarters. Our view was that that would alleviate one shortage. But beside shortage, there is also problems of utility services that are brought to those houses. Teachers cannot go and connect water in the houses. It is the responsibility of government.
Yes.
Their responsibility is only to pay the bills. So we have situations where, for example, you gave the right example, and that example I don't think is only restricted to the teachers' quarters. It's also restricted to the whole village. Yamolepulule. It has been running for a long time without water. We have had that problem also at Good Hope Senior Secondary School, where we then agitated that there be JoJo tanks that are placed at those schools. But you see, these things, government has been sluggish in responding to the call by teacher trade unions to implement those things that would alleviate accommodation and also make the residents where the teachers are staying, which are institutional, to be better places for them to reside. In terms of cyclic...
let's just hold it there, Rari. We'll continue after the break.
Have you downloaded BW News app? Your one-stop shop for Botswana's leading newspapers. If not, what are you waiting for? Start reading the print editions of Botswana's leading newspapers as they appear in the newspapers on any device. The BW News app features the Midweek Sun, Botswana Guardian, Mechi, and the Monitor, updated in an easy-to-flip-through format once the papers are printed. Our packages include current affairs, which creates seamless access for one organizational setup. You can add up to 100 users at affordable rates. After subscription, you will have access to our PDF archive from the past 1 year. You will also receive notifications on your phone as soon as the newspapers publish. You can open your favorite title and share it in text format, and also change the font size and screen light to your choosing. Too busy to flip through and read? The BW News app will read the article for you, and it can also translate from English to the language you're comfortable with. Get the BW News app from the Google Play Store and the App Store and enter a world of up-to-date news presented as it appears in the physical paper.
If you are just joining in, you are welcome to the public square. Today we are having a conversation with the Secretary General of the Teachers Union, BOSETU. His name is Tobokani Rari. Welcome back, Rari. You can just conclude on that particular point so that we can proceed to the next one.
Then very short conclusion to that is that I just wanted to emphasize that I think teachers and members out there should know that on the issues of maintenance, we have agitated for a frequent maintenance, that there be a team that goes to those residential houses every year to check on the standards. But that has not happened. BOSETU as a trade union, its job is to advocate, lobby, and also fight for the rights. But, for the purposes of getting the results, I think it takes two to tango. Yeah.
That's true. Thank you very much. Now, there's this perception, SG, that since the 2011 public service strike, which was unprecedented actually in the history of labor relations or industrial relations in Botswana, teachers are on a go-slow strike. And perhaps this is why results, say, at JC and Form 5 are always declining. What is your response to that?
Yeah. Now, I will tell you one thing, Rembuya, which governments, I'm not talking about the government of Botswana only, governments across the world should never do. You should never allow a situation where workers go on a prolonged strike, because the consequences of a prolonged industrial action are quite dire. They don't manifest themselves only into a non-provision of service at that particular moment, but they create a situation where there is a disharmony that goes for a long time between the employer and the employees. It creates an industrial environment which is toxic for quite some time. That's why all governments and all employers in the private sector, you should not allow yourself a situation where you have differences with an employer that would result into a prolonged industrial action. The consequences of an industrial action do not only manifest in the non-provision of service, but what is even more dire is the situation which is created by a strike, where now the relationships and also commitment to work becomes a problem. It needs to be massaged after the strike for quite some time. But to answer your question, teachers are not on go-slow. I can tell you that. We dealt with that situation 2013, 2014. You remember, after 2011, there was an issue, back and forth issue, during strike. There was no work, no pay. Retrospectively. Remember, there was no work, no pay. My teacher was striking. Then then the issue was now that should that backlog now be taught because the employer did not pay. I was not paid for that. And therefore, I should continue from the time, teachers every time they do the plan. As you might know, you are a teacher. So should I start where maybe it's week 3? Should I start at week 3 and move forward? Those erupted after the strike. We dealt with them, we finished them. And we came out as trade unions to also say, comrades, the strike is over. Let's now pick it from there and move on. The bad results, in my view, cannot be attributed to a go-slow. There's no go-slow. But the bad results should be attributed to the conditions under which teachers work. We have said it several times that the student-teacher ratio is very high. Teachers are trying their level best, but they are faced with debilitating circumstances that act against their efforts of delivery. Student-teacher ratio is very high. Now we are talking about workloads. Just recently, the government was trying to increase the number of classes and the number of periods that teachers would work to increase it beyond what is provided in the establishment register. There are some teachers now who are carrying a very high workload. But with teachers, remember, you teach during the day, then what happens with the marking? What happens with the preparation? So these are the debilitating circumstances. Teachers are also not motivated because they have stagnated at the top notch of salary scale, mainly C1, because they cannot be able to get promoted.
Good, we'll come to that one. Yeah. I just wanted to follow up on what you just said regarding the workload.
Yes.
In January this year, BOSETU instructed its members, the teachers, not to go beyond the call of duty. Yes. What did that mean? And how far are you with that? I think this was after government terminated temporary teachers.
Yes, the context of it is this, that, like I have said, a government decided to want to reduce expenditure, particularly that they are incurring in the hiring of temporary teachers in places where there are not enough teachers.
Hold it there.
Yeah.
Please don't forget, so that we can continue after the break.
Do you want to stay in touch with the up-to-the-minute breaking news countrywide, regional and international coverage, as well as in-depth analysis from Botswana's most trusted media house? Then head over to www.megi.bw, where you can also enjoy access to premium articles, long reads, features, and exclusive opinions. Whether you're looking for updates on politics, health, education, business, and the economy, or sports, and many more, we have you covered. Sign up on the website and choose a package suitable for you. We also have packages for organizations at affordable rates. Visit www.megi.bw and enjoy the finest journalism and news you need to know.
If you are just joining, we are on the public square and we are in conversation with the Secretary General of Teachers Union, BOSETU, Tobokani Rari. Welcome back, Rari. If you could just conclude on that particular matter that we had already started.
Yes. I was trying to say that the issue that you referred to as calling upon teachers to not go beyond the call of duty came about when government introduced or decided that they terminate the contracts of the temporary teachers. And then the workload that was being carried by the temporary teachers was now passed over to the permanent and pensionable teachers, and therefore making them to work beyond what is provided for by the policy in use now. The policy in use now provides the minimum that a teacher should carry in terms of the number of classes and the number of periods that that teacher should have. So when we realized that now teachers were made to work or to carry loads in terms of the number of teachers and number of periods that are beyond what is provided by the establishment register, which is the policy that is in use, then we issued out a statement after engaging government, of course, that teachers should refuse to carry extra load. So that is what we did, and we feel that it was in order because we were supported by a policy that has been discussed between the union and the employer in the past, which has not changed by now. Yes.
Very good. recently you shared a document with the various political parties in the country.
Yes.
I think it was called the National Policy Advocacy Strategic Intent.
Yes.
And among the many propositions that you made, I think there was one about resuscitating the Public Service Bargaining Council.
Yes.
What difference would that make? I mean, right now you are negotiating, I take it, with DPSM.
Yes.
Reviving the PSBC, what difference will that make?
Yeah. No, like I always say, to have a formal legislated structure where trade unions negotiate is very important. What we are doing now, it's quite informal. Beside the informality, when you have a Public Service Bargaining Council, the Public Service Bargaining Council will have a threshold where trade unions would then apply to be admitted. Usually, thresholds are meant to avoid a situation where you will have multiple voices of trade unions that are coming to the employer at the same time. The employer would talk to BTU separately, BOSETU separately, BUPEU separately, BUNU separately, and that makes negotiation very cumbersome, and it is a disadvantage to the working class, because the working class should come with one voice. So the threshold also would enable trade unions to come together so that they apply and go there as a united force. Then when you have a situation like we have now, any trade union can say, because I've got a recognition agreement, I can come to the employer on my own. And therefore that would what? That would weaken, because there will be proliferation of people that are coming to the employer, and that will weaken the voice of the workers. Let me give you just an example. When we started, we had what we referred to as the 6 cooperating trade unions. It was BOSETU, BTU, BUPEU, BLAU, Nurses Union, and Manual Workers. Last year, 2022, it was no longer 6 cooperating trade unions. It was 5 cooperating. Manual Workers had moved out. Then there was also TAU, and there was also BUGO. TAU and BUGO, they were together. You see how many unions now that faces the employer to negotiate the same thing, which is a salary increase. So that is not good to either the employer or the trade unions themselves. So, but if you have got a bargaining council, what happens? It puts a threshold. If you are a small union, then you'll be forced to combine with others and then apply to be admitted and go there as a united force. It unites the workers. It also makes the job for the employer to be easy, because the employer doesn't face multiple unions and have multiple agreements over the same thing. Let me give you an example. For example, in 2022, the 5 cooperating trade unions agreed on a 5%, 5%, 5%. Manual workers, I'm just using them as an example. Manual workers also agreed on a 5%, 5%. But with the 5 cooperating unions, there was a proviso that say in 2024, 2025 financial year, there will be a 5%, but over and above that, in that particular year, there is going to be a review of the economy. If the economy is doing well, then the 5% will be increased. But that provision was not there with the manual workers. That provision was not there with the doctors' union and TAU. So what if then the 5 cooperating unions would have succeeded to have the 7%, to have the 5% increased to 7%, for example? Would that apply to these other ones? So you see the problem that is creating to the employer. It is also creating the problem of weakening the voice of the workers.
That's right. BOSETU has been in existence now for almost 38 years.
Yes, yes.
What would you say have been the highlights of the union in terms of advancing the cause of teachers, of your members?
Yeah. I think BOSETU has done significantly well in comparison with the other trade unions. For example, when BOSETU started, you would remember that bana never transportiwa lima teacher mo ditrake. And you, comrades, as the pioneers, I think those are some of the things that you started with. Guess what? That issue was dealt with by the trade union, and it is now a thing of the past. You would no longer see bana lima teacher palamidi track, and the buses, I still remember, were bought for districts. It's a success, a recorded success. You remember that marking for external examinations was done. First, it was the curriculum department that was doing it. Then BEC was then, the Act, BEC was then adopted in Parliament. BEC as a creature of statute was also created. And, there was continuation of the use of teachers without being paid because they are working for a different employer. BOSETU fought, went to court 2009, won the case, and now as I speak to you, teachers are getting remunerated for offering their services to a different employer, which is Botswana Examinations Council. It's a milestone achievement. You would also recall that when scarce skills started in the public service, none of the teaching cadres were offered scarce skill. BOSETU fought. Physics was given scarce skill. Chemistry was given scarce skill. Now we are fighting for agriculture. We are fighting for business studies. We are fighting for other subjects so that they also get scarce skill. So these are marked achievements that were done by BOSETU. You would also recall that when BOSETU aligned with other trade unions, they were able to negotiate with the employer to get increments for a number of years. 2018, 2019, there were increments that were negotiated by the trade union BOSETU. You would also recall that when the Public Service Act number 10 of 2008 was number 8 of 2008 was introduced, got 2010. Teachers before that were not paid for going extra mile, that is overtime. BOSETU came in and advocated that teachers should be paid for overtime as part of the rest of the public service, and that has now been implemented. So these are significant, and more importantly, levels of operation. You remember that before 2013, teachers were paid differently. If you are at senior school, a senior teacher was at D4. At junior school, a senior teacher was at C1. At primary school, a senior teacher was at C2, in spite of the fact that their qualifications are the same. We fought for that, and in 2013, there was this thing called levels of operation, and a lot of teachers were elevated. I know there are still some gray areas from the levels of operation. For example, at primary schools, the senior teacher with responsibility is still at C2, and there is a problem where the senior teacher without responsibility can move and congest with the senior teacher with responsibility. That we are still fighting. But levels of operation that upgraded the teachers was fought for by the trade unions, and I was part of it.
Very good. Looks like you have achieved quite a lot there, SG.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have come to the end of our conversation with Rari. Thank you very much for watching. We look forward to having you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciated your being here.
Thank you.